Hi beautiful souls, Denise here and welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving deep into a fascinating and sometimes unsettling topic, sleep paralysis. So if you've ever woken up unable to move with maybe a heavy pressure on your chest or the feeling that someone is in the room, you're not alone. Sleep paralysis is a well-known phenomenon that can feel terrifying, but today we're going to explore not only the science behind it, but also the deeper spiritual meanings. Is it just a sleep disorder, or could it be something more? Some say it's part of the dark night of the soul, or even linked to experiences such as ET abduction, or encounters with the incubus or the succubus. So let's dive into what sleep paralysis is, why it happens, and how to navigate these deeper spiritual layers. So let's begin with the understanding of what sleep paralysis is. It happens when your mind wakes up, but your body is still in a state of sleep. You're fully aware, but your body is temporarily paralyzed and you can't move or speak. During sleep, your body goes into a state called REM, rapid eye movement, where most of your dreaming happens. During this phase, your brain actually paralyzes your muscles to stop you from physically acting out your dreams. Sleep paralysis occurs when your mind wakes up before your body does, leaving you in this state of in-between. Now, many people experience sensations like pressure on the chest, difficulty breathing, or even hallucinations of strange figures or presences in the room. While this can feel terrifying, it's important to remember that it's temporary and a natural part of the sleep cycle. So why does this happen? So from a scientific standpoint, it can be triggered by factors like sleep deprivation, stress, irregular sleep patterns, or even underlying sleep disorders like insomnia. But for some, sleep paralysis also comes during times of deep personal transformation. It certainly did with me, and I'll tell you my experiences at the end. In spiritual traditions, sleep paralysis can be seen as a part of the dark night of the soul, a time when we are facing our deepest fears and shadows. This experience can feel like an awakening or a spiritual initiation where we're called to confront the darker aspects of ourselves that maybe we've been trying to avoid. For many, sleep paralysis isn't just a physical or psychological experience. It feels deeply spiritual and very real. Some believe it's a time when we're more open to other dimensions or beings. This has led to fascinating connections between sleep paralysis and experiences like ET abduction or encounters with the incubus and the succubus. So let's talk about these connections. Throughout history, people have reported seeing shadowy figures, feeling a presence in the room, or experiencing pressure on their chest during sleep paralysis. In some cultures, this has been interpreted as encounters with the incubus or the succubus, male and female entities said to visit during the night and drain energy from their victims. Others interpret these experiences as being part of an ET abduction phenomenon, where the feeling of paralysis is linked to extraterrestrial encounters. Whether these experiences are symbolic, representations of our fears, or connections to other dimensions. Sleep paralysis has long been a bridge between the physical and the spiritual worlds. So how can we navigate sleep paralysis, especially if it's happening often or feels overwhelming? Whether you see it as a sleep disorder or a spiritual experience, there are ways to manage it. Relax and breathe. So when you're in the middle of sleep paralysis, the most important thing to remember is that it will pass. Focus on slow, deep breaths and tell yourself, this is temporary. I am safe. Try to move a small part of your body if you're able. Try to wiggle your toes or fingers or just one finger. This small movement can break the paralysis and bring you fully back into your body. Embrace the experience as part of spiritual growth. From a spiritual perspective, if you're experiencing sleep paralysis during a time of personal transformation, like the dark night of the soul, try to embrace the experience. Ask yourself, what fears am I being asked to confront? What can I learn from this moment? Facing these fears head on can help release old patterns and bring deeper healing. Create a calming sleep environment. Creating a calming, safe sleep space can also reduce the frequency of sleep paralysis. Set a regular sleep schedule. Avoid screens before bed. And incorporate calming practices like meditation before bed. Sleep on your side. Many people find that sleep paralysis happens more frequently when they sleep on their back. So try sleeping on your side instead and see if it makes a difference. While sleep paralysis is usually harmless, if it is happening frequently or causing distress, it might be helpful to talk to a doctor or a sleep specialist or a therapist. They can help you rule out any underlying conditions and give you guidance on how to improve your sleep health. Now, I became interested in sleep paralysis because when I stepped onto my spiritual path, I began to have really lots of episodes of sleep paralysis. I would often wake up in the night, thought I had woken up, but it felt very real, felt like I was awake, and that I was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move. I could hardly breathe, and I felt like a malevolent energy or a dark, evil energy had walked into the room. And then I could sometimes feel like my doona or duvet, depending on what part of the world you live in, was being tugged on or pulled, and it was like it was being pulled off me, and then something would crawl up onto the bed and sit on my chest, and then there would be a time where I wouldn't remember. It was like I'd get to that and then I couldn't remember anything else, so I don't really know what was occurring then. There were other times, and this goes back to when I was very little, that I remember this. The same thing, it was a form of sleep paralysis. Same thing, I would sort of wake up and feel like there was something in the room, and then I would see aliens or greys, if you to be exact. They were like the little grey aliens. And then I was somehow on a stretcher and it actually felt like I was on a door. Weird, but that's just a straight plank of wood, or like a door. And then they were next to me, and they weren't holding it. I was just floating on this door, and then all of us would just go through the wall of my bedroom, and then I wouldn't remember anything else after that. So all of this, I remember reading it one day about sleep paralysis, and I thought, oh, that's something that I've experienced and that I have. And so as I actually researched it and understood it a little bit more, the next time it happened, I woke myself up. Now, I could have sworn to you that I was awake, and I was probably awake on some level, and of course still in that dream time, and that's what they call the hallucinations in that dream time. But I woke myself up out of what I thought was being awake, and it was such a revelation. And I thought, oh, I wasn't awake, but I thought I was awake, and I thought it was happening in the waking world, and it has not happened since then. And so for me, a lot of it came back when I stepped, obviously it was happening when I was younger, but a lot of it really came back when I stepped onto my spiritual path and I was facing a lot of fears. Sometimes things would even come out of the cupboards, or it would seem like they were coming out of the cupboards. And I can remember I was terrified to leave the cupboard doors open at night. Now, I was nearly 40, I think, going through this stage. I was terrified to leave the cupboard doors open, the wardrobe doors open, and I wouldn't put any of my limbs over the edge of the bed. I was terrified something was going to grab them. So there was a lot of fears going on. I don't have any of that anymore, but it was a really interesting period of my life. And obviously the fears that were going on inside of me were somehow being projected outward and in my dream time, so that I wouldn't have to experience it in my waking life. So that was just the conclusion that I came to, and I hope that helped you. And also, if you are going through it, know that there is an end to it, and that it's not something that we talk about very often, because, talking about weird things coming into the bedroom at night, it's like, what's she on? What's she up to? So I hope this has alleviated some of those fears and given you some relief. Sleep paralysis can feel like a doorway into both the physical and spiritual realms. Whether it's connected to your sleep cycle, part of a personal awakening, or even an encounter with the unknown, the most important thing to remember is that you are safe and in control. By having this information about sleep paralysis, makes it easier for you to approach it with less fear and more curiosity. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this video helpful, or if you've had experiences with sleep paralysis, just let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. And as always, you can find more resources on my website. So until next time, sweet dreams, and remember, you are always much more powerful than your fears. Be kind, curious, and dream big.